Hi, this is Craig from RSA, and in this video we're going to talk about patching the Authentication Manager appliance. And second thing, we're going to talk about version 8.5 and what that looks like. So let's get started. The first thing that you'll want to do is log into the Operations console, which is where patching normally occurs. And if I hit the Maintenance menu and go down to Update and Rollback, you'll see that I have several things that I can do here. One is I can scan for an update if I have an update source already configured, and if not, I can configure that update source. The second is once I provide a scan, I can see what updates are available in the location that I specified. And then finally at the bottom, you can see a detailed history log of the patches that were applied to this appliance. Now just to give you a view of this, if I click on Configure Update Source, there are 3 places I can get a patch, or actually 4. One is the web browser to upload directly from the browsing web browser, but if the patch is too large, you can't do that, obviously, because the web browser can't communicate that much information upstream. Second, I can use an NFS source specified on my network. Third, a Windows share, which I'm using here. And then finally, if you still use DVDs or CDs, you can configure those as the update source as well. As you can see, I have already configured a local Windows share to point to the actual patch location, and you can see its location here is the ISO file on the right. And if you want, you can configure this and just test the connection, and then hopefully you get the nice magic green button, and then I save it out. So the first thing I'm going to want to do after I've configured the update source is scan for updates. So I press the magic button. It has a look, processing it, and now I can see that 8.5 is an available update that I can now just simply apply. This operation is privileged and includes operating system privileges as well, so therefore your master password is required for you to apply this update. And it's going to take about 20 minutes. And then once that's done, the appliances want to go to apply it and then reboot, so another 20 minutes or so. I'll return once this is complete, and we'll carry on. Alright, we're back, and the appliance update is now processing on the appliance. This requires updating the runtime configuration, and then a reboot of the appliance is necessary. This takes about 20 minutes, so we'll return when that's complete. Alright, the process is complete, and we are now running the latest, greatest version of Authentication Manager. And if we go to the Maintenance menu again, hit Update and Rollback, you'll see that the current version and the patch history reflect version 8.5 as our appliance. Now I think it's important to talk about what is in Authentication Manager version 8.5. Now I can actually reference it right here, is that the very process itself has been improved significantly. If you are on an old version of Authentication Manager, say 8.3 patch 3, your historical process would be to update to first 8.3 Service Pack 1, next Service Pack, and then the next major version, next Service Pack, and the next version. There was lots of jumps for you to get to the latest, greatest. With version 8.5, we've improved it significantly in that if you are on minimum version 8.2 Service Pack 1, then you can jump directly to 8.5, even if you're in a minor release in between 8.2 SP1 and 8.5. So being able to jump directly to 8.5 is a great efficiency improvement, and then also minimizes the potential downtime for your appliances in your environment. Second, let's go to community.rsa.com or RSA link to look at the release notes for version 8.5. So if you go into a Products to SecurID and hit the Release Notes tab, you'll see a list of features that are available. And I'm going to speak about this generically, and then we'll get into another video that details how to configure some of this stuff. So one aspect is Authentication Manager version 8.5 contains a new capability where you can download and install an embedded identity router. Now note the identity router is a virtual appliance that is used to connect to the cloud authentication service for SecurID. We now operate this from within Authentication Manager. It's slightly different than a standalone identity router in that it does not contain the inbuilt IDR radius server or the single sign-on or SSO portal. The only thing it contains is what's called the enterprise connector, which is the ability for you to synchronize identities from your backend identity source like Active Directory up into the cloud authentication service. And as a result of doing this, you get two major things. One is if you have users using the cloud-based SecurID Authenticate MFA app, they can use that app to authenticate to any resource protected by Authentication Manager, be it agents or radius. Secondly, the service includes the ability for Authentication Manager to synchronize Authenticate app token codes with Authentication Manager, which means if the cloud service for some reason is unavailable or your internet connection is disrupted, because of this synchronization, that means that users will seamlessly continue to be able to authenticate using the MFA app without doing anything special. And so that's a huge aspect to what version 8.5 includes. Thirdly, if you visit the security console, the first message that you'll see in a yellow box is that Authentication Manager cannot send telemetry data to RSA. So let's talk about telemetry for a moment. When you're using the baked-in identity router, we will understand exactly which MFA app authentication methods you are using in terms of authenticating to resources held by Authentication Manager. And that's literally all we collect. So if we actually go into the log files, so I'll show you on the right here, so if you download the Authentication Manager logs, go into server, go into logs, and telemetry, you can actually open this up and have a look. And you can see that there's no personal information stored here. It's really just around which authentication methods did I use and were there an error. So we just basically count how many times you're using approve or biometrics to authenticate to resources held by Authentication Manager. And then, of course, if you're doing the high availability mode that I talked about earlier with the Authenticate token code being synchronized, then obviously this is something that we'd be interested in knowing if you're using or not. No personal information is shared here, and that is the extent of it. And finally, the natural question is, can I disable this telemetry? And yes, you can. So if you go up to the Setup menu, go to System Settings, go down to Advanced, hit Telemetry, you can actually untick the telemetry settings and apply them. And that's it. In the next video, we will talk about configuring some of the cloud authentication service features with the built-in identity router. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.